As Drew said, my name is Clark Sell. I consider myself to be a practitioner. I don't just talk about it, I actually do it. I do own and run 2 companies. I'm not a manager. I will never claim to be a manager. I actually quite hate that title, but thanks. That conference, which has been a business since 2010. And then Unspecified, which is my little software startup tech company where we're trying to productize a lot of the things that we built for that conference itself and provide it back, as well as we do some client services work in the web and IoT space. So, to kind of get things kicked off in the ground, because I really like to go off the rails and not follow slides, and I get super passionate and loud, and I might swear a few times. So, how many people have heard of that conference? So I want to kind of ground this. Fantastic. How many people have been there? Okay, the rest, we'll have to have a little feedback session later. How many people have heard or know of me? Even better. Okay. Except for the people who knew of that conference and didn't know of me. That's kind of an issue. So a few months ago, I got this phone call and said, would you come and share your experiences building communities? And for the past 20 years, this is something that I've spent a lot of time doing. For the past 10, it's something that I spend every day of my life working on and doing. And so I was elated to do that, but in trying to think about what that really means, because as somebody who's a software developer, it's easy to get up and talk about GraphQL and React and get all technical and nerdy. But when you want to talk about a community and what that really means, like what does it mean for you in your shoes listening to me do that? Like, I really struggled with how the hell do I just bring you value? What would you be interested in from the perspective of me? So I kind of flipped things back around and I said, well, if I was in your shoes, then I would want to know like what's behind the curtain. So if you think of a sink, where does the water go when you turn it on, right? You open up the doors, it magically goes in the wall. If you didn't know anything about plumbing, like then what? Does it just disappear into the walls? Or does it like magically make itself outwards? And so what I thought I would do is peel those curtains back and kind of give you my perspective of some different pillars in the community such that you have a little bit more ammunition or desire, inspiration to understand how those pillars work and thus exploit them. So call it the Untold tips and tricks. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about in this whole thing is scale and how do you scale your message and your content. And so with that being said, this entire presentation is actually a website. So if you go to on.ccell.net hack, you can see all of this in my really crappy notes, so you don't have to take any notes. It's there. The rest of the website never got finished because this got all finished yesterday, because that's how we do things. So, and I'm going to try to get this done as a little bit early so that we can ask questions and kind of go back and forth a little bit. Sound good? All right, so my story starts here. It's 2010. I walk into my vice president's office. I worked for a little company by the name of Microsoft at the time. And I said, I hate the state of community inside the Midwest. I don't like it. I want you to give me $10,000, $5,000 now, $5,000 next year, and I'm going to start the first family-friendly tech conference in the Midwest. Now, mind you, I have a day job. My vice president goes, sure, writes me a check for $5,000. The first thing I did with that $5,000, I went and gave it all to a bunch of designers to help me with the creative, which was the best thing that I could have ever done because the first round of logos were horrible. So it took us 2 years to get to the first event. I walked in, what we call the mess hall today. The mess hall is 8 rooms when they're all combined. It's roughly 22,000 square feet. There's, I think, 105 chairs in this room. We can seat, if you were sitting like this, I can sit 4,000, okay? I walked into this room for the first time seeing it totally empty, and I could hear my chest beat and echo in this room. And I legitimately was scared out of my mind. Now, at this point, we had 400 people that were coming to the conference. And for the Midwest, that was a fantastic number. Like to have a conference that had 400 people in the middle of a cornfield that had never happened before with a name that nobody even understands was an accomplishment. But I've got 20,000 square feet. And so I'm hypersensitive about how you feel when you come to our thing because I believe it's all about the people. I could really care less about the content. It's all about the people. So when you walk in this room and you hear it echo, the first thing you're going to think of as somebody in your shoes is, what a failure. These guys only got 400 people. So, being in the upper Midwest, what can you get a lot of? Tents. We happen to be themed around tents. I don't know that I've really told this story publicly. So, we went to every Walmart, Target, sporting goods store, whatever that we could find around the Baraboo, Wisconsin Dells area, bought every single damn tent we could find. We went to the front quarter of the rooms and stood up every single tent. We took that stage is 35 feet out from the wall, pulled it all back. Next thing you know, we had filled up 5,000 square feet. We went to the back of the room. We put up a big panel, put all the food behind the panel. Now we deleted another 5,000 square feet. Then we took every table that we were going to have and we made it twice as big as it needed to be, because you can get tables little, big, whatever. And then we deleted half the chairs. And then we pulled them out really far. And then we put water stations all around so that you had to walk around something or possibly bump into somebody. And when people walked in on the first day, it felt full. Total sleight of hand. Scared out of my mind. But the place felt full. It felt inviting. Now, mind you, those who were there the first year will realize that I had a pack on my back and I leaned up against the wall to one of those, see that black thing up there? Turns the audio and visual off. Yep, turned the house lights on and off right in the middle of the keynote, destroyed the whole thing, but totally different problem. 7 years later, right, and our stages take 6 months of planning. There's a production crew. We have AV guys like this, and there's reasons for that. Right? It's not because we've got bigger, it's because our time's become more valuable and we need to be able to scale the message better. Now we have, instead of 400 people, we had 1,100 professionals, right? Now I have the smallest tables I can fit in there and the most number of chairs, and I can't put any more. Like, we have logistical issues. Those are good things, right? But every moment that you deal with us is a very carefully crafted, thought out thing. Granted, we're not perfect by any stretch. We all have day jobs. This is side hustle. But when you come in and you sign the signboard, I want you to assert that you're part of something. I want you to assert that you're part of this community. I want you to document and have some historical reference that this is what you did. And that first year, those first 400 people that came that entrusted in us to do that, like, we couldn't be more proud of the fact that I couldn't be more thankful that they came. And now, the thing doesn't want to click. And now we have multiple signboards. One for the adults, one for the kids. Which was a suggestion of my own kids after a couple years. Like, we'd always had a family thing. But after like the second or third year, I think it was my son that came to me and said, why can't we sign something? And it was like, oh shit. Like, what am I thinking? Of course, why can't you sign something? You're half of this whole thing. How did I not ever see that? So sometimes those requirements, those features come from places that you don't necessarily recognize. So community is a big piece of who I am. From a young age to now, it is a big part of my DNA. And over the past 8 months, it's dawned on me after interfacing more and more with CIOs of big companies and whatnot that there's not really a universal term as to what community really means. When I think about it and I say it, it means one thing. Maybe when you say it, it means something else, or the CIO says something else. So, like any good person, what do? You go to the internet, you Google, and they come up with this definition. And it seems a little corny, but I actually kind of agree with what this says. So, sharing common characteristics of interest. That seems like a good, foundational attribute. Perceived or perceiving itself as distinct in some respect from the larger society in which it exists. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. But then how come it is that when I talk to folks, the definition seems to be a bit off? I was really disconcerted by that. So, as part of that conference, we have a podcast. And I figured, what would be a better way than to ask all the people who are part of this podcast what it is on how they define community and what does it mean to them. Because these are speakers, they're community leaders, they're whatever. I figure I got to get the best. They've got to have the answer. So I recorded that.
How would you define community? How would you define community?
Man, that's a great question. And I wish you'd have told me 2 days ago you're going to ask me that.
How would you define community, and what does it mean to you?
Well, this is a good question. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. How do I? God, that's really fun.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh, okay. So community to me is
you know, it's almost like if you're in church, and how do you define church? Is it a place you go? Is it something that you experience? And
I think of community as my closest friends.
The first word that popped into my head was opportunity.
I think the first thing I think about is empathy.
Probably support.
People who are willing to share and help each other.
Community is finding your people.
My definition of community is everybody.
Relationships are more important than any given person, any given entity, any given organization. And that's what I love about any communities, specifically the communities that I'm in, the developer communities. When we get together and share things, some magic happens.
Community is one of those things that actually made software more accessible.
I think it's the people that I interact with on a daily basis. It's not just when you go to the coffee shop and you see the barista that makes your coffee, but it's the people that you have an ongoing, consistent relationship with, that you say hi to in the morning, that you actually say, hey, how are you doing? That you're willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee with, have a beer with. I know, it's super important to me because, like I mentioned, I feel grateful for where I'm at in my career. My problem now is I can't say no problem. I want to go to this meetup group over here to show them that, you know, I'm a woman and I can do this too. Or if there's women that go there, to be like, you have support. We're all here together. Just to be an example, someone to reach out to. I think it all boils down to me is just support.
The medium doesn't matter. We can have communities online, we can have communities offline. It's whatever you use to share knowledge. And it's whatever you use to kind of learn from each other, give back, and build a family that believes in the same things that you do. Maybe not necessarily the same views. It's perfect to have differences.
I think community is a group of people that provide support and criticism, appropriate criticism, because they're invested in seeing something grow and become better than it is. And sometimes that means being humbled and taking a step back, and sometimes that means stretching yourself beyond what you think you can do to get to that next level.
For me personally, I like to go out and help and grow people. So I like to go out there. My kids, grown up here in Northeast Wisconsin, and, the better that I think there's opportunities and jobs and the ability to connect, becomes an important part for why a community is vibrant and evolves. And I think part of doing that is, making sure that people feel confident in what they're doing, or imparting skill and helping them grow into the person that they want to be.
I was an oddball, right? Growing up, I was the girl who liked Star Wars and liked video games and got made fun of it. And then when I finally found people who loved the things that I did, there's no better feeling in the world. Like, it's Maslow's hierarchy. It's that feeling of acceptance. And so community is finding your people.
When I go to my meetings and things, I'm hanging out with a group of people that think like I do, that face the same challenges that I do, that I can truly relate to. And so when I go to conferences and I hang out with other speakers or attendees or whatever, there's a real connection there.
To me, community is having other people walking their paths with you. Maybe not the same paths, but somebody else who's on the same kind of journey, and you can support each other in the journey.
My biggest takeaway is, you know what? It's great to consume knowledge and read what you can and watch videos and build your home lab and this stuff. But I think if we're really going to be successful, we need to do it together. And we need to, quite honestly, do shows like this, Clark, and share and give back. It's a bi-directional. It's not a unidirectional thing when I think about community. So the more you can give back, the better off we'll all be.
I think it's so wonderful every time that I go to one of those meetups and I meet somebody new who doesn't have, like, who may not be in the community yet, but like they are interested in Raspberry Pis, and they find this meetup and they go to the meetup around Raspberry Pi, and then they find other people, and then I think about how many jobs and how many friends I've known who have gotten jobs or connections to jobs through the people that they've met through the community.
They are folks that, even if I haven't seen them in a long time, when you see them again, you know, you feel that instant connection, that you know, as if not a whole lot of time has actually passed.
It's opened up these possibilities through, I like to build things and I like to put them on the internet and show people. And through that, I've had these doors open to be connected to people, you know, people like you, people like Robin, people like, you know, I've met all like people who build the internet, you know, like the Apollo team, React team. And I'm sitting down talking to these people who are having an enormous influence on the way the internet is going. And really the only reason I'm doing that is because I got on the internet and started sharing. And I think that's what it is for me. Is it's a door. And it's just kind of boundless possibility as long as you're willing to put yourself out there and say hi.
All of those things, every time I listen to that, I get a little goosebumpy, because the reality is this is a complex space. There is a lot of communities, but there's one thread, and it is people in it. It's not the content, it's not where you live, it is the people of which you associate with. All right, so the natural aspect of this is then where? Where do we find communities, right? Well, it's where we live, it's where we work, it's the schools. I mean, these are three things probably many of you today have just intersected with. User groups, the events, and then online. Right? That's like the largest community possible. But there's two sides of that, right? Being physical or virtual. And when I started that conference, I had folks tell me that starting an in-person conference was the worst decision that you could ever make. I was also told that the tech community in the Midwest was not worth investing an ounce of money into. I was told that the flyover states were garbage, the tech community was garbage, and everybody who has tried there before has failed. And that was from some of the largest media companies in the tech industry in the United States. They have since tried to come back and do their thing in our home states and have yet failed again. So, haha. But it drives me every day. But here's the thing. When we're together, physically, we have a very authentic, dynamic conversation. It is of the highest fidelity. It is things that we can meander whichever way we want. It's much, much different than when we're online, right? We can be online anytime, anywhere. It doesn't take a lot of effort. We can hide behind webcams. We can hide behind other people there. We don't have to engage. Like, I have a microphone right now. All of you have to pay attention just because I'm louder than you and you're sitting this way and I'm sitting this way. It's intentional, right? But I can't sit here and tell you what your community is. You have to identify what your community is, and you have to be all right with that. If you don't like Twitter, great. Don't be on Twitter. Like, if you find it negative, I find it negative. If you don't like it, great. Move on. Find another one. Go deep, go long. And let's keep everything in check, right? Just because somebody has thousands of followers on some social network doesn't mean they actually have true influence, right? Your network, depending on whatever that is, what influence or interaction do you have with that? So all these things aren't equal, but I want you to think to yourself, the network that I have and the influence that I do I have the ability to get on the phone and call somebody and say, hey, could you look at this, to use your thing earlier, SQL statement, and see if it is right? I had people reviewing this deck before I started, and they don't live around me. I've met them through the communities. I just wanted their feedback. So think about your network and how you can activate that. And let's not worry about size. If you have 3 people and you feel like it's the right 3 people, then that's okay. I mean, imagine if you're Bill Gates and it's Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and, I don't know, a lot of other rich people sitting at a table. Do you think they're worried about, like, can I get 100,000 people to sit at this table? No. Their network is fine. But the reality is being present in today's society is super hard. I think we can all agree to that. With alarms going off and kids' schools and whatnot, it's just difficult. And there are 4 pillars that I feel like that are mandatory as part of every community. Sponsors, attendees, speakers, and organizers. And without any one of these things, the chair falls. And you're going to hear at times on Twitter, speakers are going to get all huffy, well, I need to get paid for this thing. Great. So does the organizers. Are the organizers getting paid? Maybe, maybe not. I haven't been. Are the members actively involved? Like, if you're a speaker but there's no members, who are you speaking to? Right? So if you don't have an organizer to put together a venue, then you have no platform to go speak on, right? So all of these things have to exist, but I hate those terms, and I've already kind of slipped into what I want to call them. For me, organizers should really be called vanguards. They're just the people at the front of the army trying to lead some mission that they have. Speakers are really contributors, right? They're the content creators. They're helping push things. And they're not the only contributor, they're just a contributor. Sponsors are supporters. They're exchanging something for some opportunity, right? And all of us, in some regards, are members of the community. And so we're going to kind of meander through this. Like, I want to talk about each one of these pillars of vanguards, supporters, members, contributors, and then end with how do you exploit some of that, right? So you understand where these pillars are at and what they do. So vanguards, right? I already alluded to the fact that these are the people in the forefront of the army. So in the case of that conference, that's me. I'm the one who set the vision. I'm the one who signs the contracts. My ass is on the line. I'm the one that stands up there. I'm the one that gets the emails. Not disrespecting the rest of the crew that works for us. I just happen to be the front face of it. I was the one who started it. So why? Why on earth would anybody civilized with half a brain start a conference? It is like the worst thing ever, although super gratifying. And I've already alluded to the fact people thought the Midwest wasn't a place to be. I think the community that we have here is fantastic. I think it rivals the coast. I think we do some of the biggest stuff that's out there. We just need a way to connect one another. I also think the way the community happens across the globe isn't right. And so I've set out to try to change that. And for me, the event is just a reunion. I didn't set out to create an event. We set out to create a platform that every day the machine connects all of you. If in 10 years you can come back to that conference and say, I was given this because of this thing, not me, because of the machine, then we've succeeded. When you go and you listen to a kid's presentation because you want to understand how they use Snapchat, we've succeeded. When there's half women in here, we've succeeded. So my investment is in you. And a lot of you don't even know me, and I don't know you, which is a really horrible business plan. So what does my investment look like? Well, obvious, it's time. It's my crew's time. It's their family's time. It's the hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars worth of contracts that we have. All of our personal assets are on the line. At any given point, I could lose it all. Right? And then, of course, the money that gets flung around. And so people ask me, what is it like to plan a conference? Well, I tell them it's like getting on a freight train. And there's this natural rhythm, right? The train shakes a certain way, it hits each stop, whatnot, but the train always runs. The thing never, ever stops. And that's conference planning. Like the minute things start, the clock starts ticking down, and you're running out of time, and you're running out of money. And there's nothing you can do. You can't bend physics. You can't pause time. You've just got to get it done. And so this is what the schedule looks like, which is a little hard to read, I realize. But, in September, we're paying bills. I get done with the conference. We get a vanilla envelope that's about 1.5 inches thick, 2 inches thick. of bills, every hour of every room of every day that has to be reviewed. We get into contracts, budgeting. October, we get into prospectus, and then we start working on the backlog. November, we start searching for keynoters. Call for sponsors opens in December. Marketing and everything starts in January. Call for speakers in February. We start picking the speakers. We get the tickets set up. The scheduling happens. April, we announce everything. Tickets go on sale. May, full price tickets. June, we're into orders and meal planning and printing and whatnot. Like, it's on and on and on and on. And those are only the big things. Because all the little tasks add up to be really, really big tasks. So this year we had 163 speakers. Let's just call it 150, round numbers. If I spend an hour with each one of those speakers, that's 150 hours. Or June. That's only an hour. Some speakers I'll spend a day or two with. Other speakers, maybe a half hour. Some speakers who aren't even on the list we've helped. I spent 80 hours just reviewing abstracts for folks. Favorite question. I've actually never really shared this publicly, so everybody's going to have an opinion. Let's talk budget. $500,000 conference. Where's the money go? Well, $285,000 of that money goes on food. And everybody's got an opinion about how that should be. But the reality is, we are where we are for logistical reasons, for size reasons, because it's a family-friendly place, because we need to be able to feed 1,700 people in an hour. Like, we have to ship in staff, and we have to order extra chairs. $55,000 in AV, $55,000 on room comps, $25,000 on cotton, $20,000 in promotional items, $10,000 for the space. Turns out space is super cheap anywhere. Convention center space, cheap. AV food, super expensive. Professional fees, another $20,000, $8,000 on printing, not enough on marketing, $10,000 on creative, blah, 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 right? Like, the money goes like that. It's gone. You buy 1,700 shirts, they add up quick. So hindsight, right? What have we learned over the year? One, patience. I don't have enough of it. I thought year one would be year 10. I feel like we're just getting started, and it's been since 2010, 8 years. After the first year, when we walked in, I was $20,000 upside down. I didn't know what mistake we had made. 20 grand, I just threw a giant party, $20,000 for this event. Thankfully, Kalahari messed up. We got some refunds back. Maybe walked out with $500 ahead. But what you don't know is, like, we set all this stuff in motion, we get guaranteed minimums and yada, yada, yada. I walk in and I have to pay for the thing before I even get to take step on it, right? So how do we pay for it? Well, with the credit card. I mean, it's America, right? So I learned that it's a business and it has to be treated like a business. Our vision, our mission, everything that we want to do, that's all fine and dandy. I still have a business to manage. There's a whole lot of money that's got to get paid, contracts and all that. We think about scale all the time. We think about the value of time, your time, my time, the crew's time. And and this has really come true in the last year or so, like, money's just a resource. Like, it enables us to do things. There's a cost to it. If we want to do it, it's just part of doing business. So we actually stopped talking about time, money, and resources. We say people and resources and time. What people can do what resources do we have to enable folks, and how much time is left. And the bigger we become, the more responsibility we incur. It has nothing to do with who we are or what it is. It just has to do with how big our platform is. And so I think of ripples in a pond. You throw a stone out into the middle of the lake, and you're the stone, and you fall in, you get a little ripple. And you can see kind of what the effect is because it's right next to you. But that ripple grows, and it grows, and it grows. And by the time it gets to the lake edges or the ocean edges, now we have a tsunami. So I have to think about, what is it that we do in the platform that we have? Because we put people on a pedestal. We give people a platform to do things. And so what ripples get created from that? And what would it be in a few years? Right? Who knows? Let's switch gears. Let's talk about supporters. So they're the easiest in the bunch. At the end of the day, they're exchanging some resource for an opportunity. Money, reach, time, credibility. They're giving us something in exchange for something. Pretty simple. That relationship is a pretty simple relationship. Right? What are they looking for? Mostly around here, the top one is a pretty big deal. They're certainly disproportionately, at least in the Midwest. Recruiting's a big deal. Reach, right? They're trying to get to an audience that's already established, right? We're known for having deep relationships with developers. We're not the CIO conference. We're the tech conference with the practitioners, the people who build shit. Branding. Sometimes they want to get you to know the brand, or they want to fix their branding, right? Or product or service sales. So tooling companies are often falling into that bucket. But then, right, I get asked, look, that's great, but I don't really want any of those things. Like I, as a member of the community, I don't want to be bothered by the people in the tables on the side. Well, my first thing to you would be, or to me is always, is that chair falling out of balance? Because if y'all come, but you don't want to interface with them, now my chair's leaning to the wrong direction, and I've got a problem, right? But I'd argue that, the clicker's not working, that you need to think about how you grow your network, right? What do they have, or who can they get you to that helps you fulfill your mission? Maybe they're not the end state, but maybe they can get you closer to it, because this is a super, super small industry, really small. I know we want to play like it's big and all. We're very immature, we're very young, and it's small. You can get to somebody pretty fast. On the flip side, how can you connect them? Like, do you offer something or possess something that helps them get further to their mission? Now, that's not maybe why you came to the conference, but if you think back to that video and how the doors open, maybe one of those folks will get you to where you need to be. And the reality is, we don't say thank you enough. We need to thank them for being here. Like, they're a big piece of my budget. Our tickets are upside down. Everybody who came to that conference this year, I lost money on. You did not pay your full ride to come. Forget people just not getting paid to even do it. Like, food costs more than the ticket did. Right? So they're a big piece of it. Thank them. Let's talk about contributors. Are there speakers in the room? One. Are there people who want to be a speaker or strive to speak? Good. People who are afraid to speak? Okay. Let's knock that down. Let's talk about contributors. I think a lot about, like, we're in a day of like content creation. It's super easy to do this kind of stuff. Like, a speaker is really just a content creator, right? They're exchanging, for us, you're exchanging your experience in a certain thing. So contributors in a community, it's really kind of everybody, unless you're just kind of consuming it all, right? It's the members, the organizers, the volunteers, the speakers. But for purposes of today, right, we're just going to talk about speakers. All right, so why speak? I'm going to be curious for the people who haven't spoke why they want to speak. Well, first, goodwill. You heard a lot in the video today is people just want to share. They just want to be part of it. They're busting at the seams with whatever they learned, and they just have to give it away. Otherwise, they feel like they are holding in something. And that's fantastic. Branding. People want to know. Like, I want you guys all to know my company is Unspecified. I'm always looking for some work. Teaching opportunities. Now, this is twofold, right? I think the speakers actually get the biggest benefit in the teaching side, because I can stand up here and I can talk to you about this, and you can go to the website and you can go view all this, but you don't see the 200 hours that it took for me to get here. And for me to try to take all of the stuff in my head and make it somewhat coherent to be able to spit it out up here, right? So I taught myself a whole lot about just my vision and my mission over the past 10 years. If you're going to go stand up and do a GraphQL thing or some React, you better have your stuff together. You got a demo to put together. You got resources, right? You're going to learn a lot as a speaker trying to do that. You're going to get self-confidence. You have to. You're going to stand in front of a bunch of people. And what happens in the tech industry a lot? A lot of passive-aggressive comments. So you got to have thick skin. Of course, you get reach, business development, right? Those are all types of it. So let's talk about events. Like, where can these opportunities be expressed? I think the first one being the company sometimes is seen as the smallest opportunity, but when I had started my journey way back in 1998 at this little company called Allstate Insurance, we used to do lunch and learns every month and had 100 developers sitting in an auditorium. Like, to speak to, there's 100 people in here, so to speak to 100 people, like, you have to have your stuff together. It also gave me networking opportunity to get our vendors and our partners together to be part of this little thing. A lot of user groups are 10, 15, 20 people. It's obviously user groups, code camps, regional events, national events, international events. You know, events are kind of weird. Like, I, for that conference, feel like we are a regional event. I am hyper-focused on the Midwest. It's great that we get people nationally. It's great that we get people from internationally. I also care more about the people in the Midwest. I'm not, like, it's in the Dells because it's a drive-to, because the people in the Midwest don't have a problem driving there. If I wanted an easy event to get to, well, then I'd be in Milwaukee or O'Hare or Chicago. Don't be in O'Hare. But I'm not in Chicago because of union contracts. My $500,000 event would be $2.5 million. I wouldn't be able to go put tape on the walls or make my thing because I'd have to go find a union guy to do a thing and get the foreman to stand there. The hell with that. Like, that's just a waste of money. But I talked about the physical and the virtual. So then what about the virtual side of things? Obviously, social networks, the comments section, direct messages. I don't think you realize how much DMs are like a giant ordeal. I spend more time in private messages in Slack, Twitter, Facebook, emails, phone calls than I do publicly. And I've actually tried to start taking those and recording them on the podcast because the conversations are fantastic. The fact that only one person gets the benefit of that is horrible. Podcasts, YouTube, Twitch, blogs, vlogs, like, the opportunities are endless. Absolutely endless. So, here's my advice if you're looking to speak. The first thing you have to be, or first thing you have to ask, is why does somebody care? Like, why in the sea of the internet are you unique? What experience do you bring? And don't hide behind the tech or the hashtag. Don't submit a thing that says, how to do React. Who cares? Like, I could just go Google that. Why are you better to talk about that? What experience do you have? Do you have a profile? Let's talk about scaling your message. So you're going to be here, you're going to say a thing, you're going to leave. How does somebody find you? How does somebody go get the thing? Because all you've done for that hour or that 2 hours is entice them to maybe do more. So then afterwards, you want them to go get your thing. So of the 200 hours that I put together for this, I decided to completely redo the Unspecified website, make this an actual website instead of like Keynote or Google Slides, whatever. Like, this is a website so that you can get at it and you can share it, and I can scale this message beyond just here. You need to ask who you are, what you are, and what you're not. And then you need to ask, do you align to my vision? Because I'm trying to tell a story. Back to what the definition of community is. Like, what's our unique thing that we're doing? I have people submit to us some of the craziest stuff. And I have to call them up and say, that's cool, wrong conference. Like, you just wasted, like, you didn't even read the front page. Like, you just saw CFP and you went for it. We're not a nursing organization. Like, it's tech people. Doesn't fit. All right, so now you're a speaker. Then what? Well, my first thing would be read what you've been given. Don't ever ask questions that you can answer yourself. You're not somehow better than everybody else. You're not on a different pedestal because you got to speak. More people get denied to speak at our conference than get accepted. And they still show up. So I'm a speaker, you're a speaker. We're in the same audience. But you didn't pick this year, but you got picked last year. I don't know if that was true or not, but I just know you're speaking today. Right? But I'm not somehow better than you, right? Just the opportunities were different. Rehearse. The number of people who don't rehearse or finish early or whatnot, shame on you. You had a platform. Use all of the minutes. Use all of your opportunity, right? Use the mic, although I don't feel like this one's working all that well. And really think about how you scale your content and your message. What does it mean after? Where is it going to go? How are you going to use it? How are you going to influence more people? Why invest all this time into speaking to an audience full of people if you're just going to let it die in that 45 minutes or that hour? Like, that's backwards. Okay, give it twice. Great. Oh, how about use the internet? How about record it? Like we're doing that recording and that recording. I don't know, I got 3 mics hooked to me like I'm in some hospital. And leverage the platform. I have all kinds of stuff that I have to do that I'm invested in to make my machine work, right? I want you to succeed. It's good for me if you're good. It's good for me if you do creative things because I'm going to amplify your message, right? So how? Well, I have a podcast. We have a publication. We spend a ton of time and money on social media. We do creative things. We love personal content. Do you know that if you were a speaker for me, that I would invest marketing dollars for you? I need you. I want you. I want the Midwest to be better. I'm spending money on you. So if you give me something and you make it easy for me, then I'm just going to spend it on you. And that's true for everybody. And again, it's about the person, right? I'm connecting you through your experiences to somebody else. I want why you're unique. I don't want the hashtags. And I want you to document it so that we can make a big deal of it. Members, so this is all of us. Now, as you heard from the video, our opportunities are quite endless. I know that sounds a bit tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is, depending on how you choose to seize it, you can pretty much do what you need to do. Grow your network, change your career, get a different job, be a mentor, get mentored, speak, go get support for a thing, just get career support, motivation, be a motivator. Like all those things happen to me every week. I have the phone calls with people trying to get them in a new job. People come to me and say, Clark, I'm looking for a thing. Do you know anybody? Sure do. Like that stuff happens in the DM. But if you're off in a corner and nobody knows about you, I can't give you that opportunity because I don't know that you need that opportunity. And this is something for me that it's taken a long time to really understand is you need to clarify your mission and then understand others. So I can remember early in my Microsoft days, back when I did a lot of Microsoft stuff, I can remember when this little technology called WCF came out. I happened to be an architect, little a architect. And I can remember seeing WCF and thinking, oh God, like our entire tech stack getting replaced with XML files and we're just going to configure everything and there's really no need for me to be a developer anymore. Like this is like the self-loathing I was in at age of, I don't know, 25, 27. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. There is so much stuff going on today in our world that you need to be pretty clear about where you want to participate. I hate the word full stack developer because that just means you're half-assed at one of those things in that full stack. There's just no way. There's no way. Okay, yes, I can write some database stuff and I can write some front-end code and I can write the middle layer, but I'm not really an expert in all of those things. Let's just call it what it is. So I want you to like walk out of here today and say, what really am I in this for? And what really am I doing? What keeps me up at night? And then I want you to exploit the hell out of it. Write your content that's unique. Understand your unique advantage, your unique angle. Understand your personal experiences and exploit that. Make yourself human. Because that's why people want to interact with you. People aren't coming to that conference just because we have 150 sessions. People are coming to a conference because there's a whole suite of people. There's a reason why we had 10,000 square feet for open spaces. Because I don't really care what the conversation is. I want you to have the conversation with her and him around whatever crazy thing that you want to go have. And so we make a space for that. But we're developers, and we like to do things at the last minute, right? So I'm going to tell you have to have a plan. I don't care what you put it in, Jira or Trello or whatever, stickies, a whiteboard, but have some kind of plan, right? At least check the boxes so that you know that you're moving forward in the thing that you want to do. And focus on building some relationships. Go long, go deep. Make them count so that you can continue to use them. And you can do that when you understand who you are. You can back up to the supporters and say, hey, I'm looking for a thing. Maybe we can help one another. And I want you to give before you ask. I get people that come up to me all the time. Can you do a thing for me? It's usually like in July. Like, hell no. I don't have any time for that. Don't know who the people are. They're asking for a thing. And I'm like, why would I do this? Like, why would I, why would I give you anything? Why am I going to spend my time, my money, to give you something when you have never gived? So give. Give and then ask. Like, flip it. And respect the time. Because you saw my calendar. Like, it's nonstop. It never stops. But you have to understand, in that terms of giving and asking for things and being involved, that in some situations, there's nothing anybody can do. Like, I can't bend physics. After the shirt orders happen, I can't buy more of them. I can't make printers work faster. Well, sometimes you can, but at some point, there's just nothing more you can do. So, right, get involved at the right time. Understand what it is. Now, that's a little harder, right? But if you're involved and you're in there and you're vulnerable to everything, then you would know when the right time is. And so become vulnerable. Right? Share your story. Share who you are. And that's hard. That's super, super hard. But I want you for a moment to just imagine a baseball player who walks onto the field and gets booed by 60,000 people. Do they turn around and walk off the field? No. They keep playing ball. We need to not feed that negative shit that's going on in our industry and continue to go do it, because the negativity is way too high with our industry. And I know you ladies in the room understand this way more than the dudes in the room. And all the dudes in the room, we need to go get more ladies in the room. It's an issue. It's an issue in the workplace. It's an issue online. Like, it's got to stop. But we have to actively change it. And so for me, like, this all comes down to like 3 buckets of things. There's a whole lot of complaining. People love to complain. You always, on every development project, you always have somebody who's complaining about something. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up. Like, let's just ship. Like, can we add value and ship? Let's just do that. Feedback. All right, it's good, right? Feedback's good, depending on how it's written, okay? And then solutions, right? How many times have you offered a solution to somebody? Like, hey, this was wrong. What about doing it this way? And here's a thing that could do a thing. Well, shit, that's way more helpful than somebody just saying, hey, I got the wrong size shirt. Yeah, okay. Well, you bought it yesterday, so sorry. So I tried to break this down a little bit because it's easy to just kind of throw those words around. But this is really how I kind of think about this. So I thought, what a great way to just troll on Gartner's Magic Quadrant. So I created the Clark's Magic Community Quadrant quadrant of reality. Spent a lot of time in Designer doing this. Now, it's important because these personal attacks and passive-aggressive comments, as we move to the right, this is the density of these things that happen and the values across the top. There is a point where people say these things and they are of negative energy. They are of negative value. I have an email sitting in my inbox right now from a speaker who was super high maintenance that I don't know how to respond to. I appreciate in all three of them, there's like complaining and feedback, and I understand the spirit, and I can kind of step out of myself and go, okay, I understand, but it's also taking a week's worth of energy, and I don't even have a response yet. Right? I have other stuff that comes in and just haunts me just because, I don't know, I just don't know what day it is for them, but whatever. The thing about it is, the comments and the feedback and all that kind of stuff happens all the time. The solutions, not so much. The sharing one's story, that doesn't happen enough. Like, you got a job because of a thing or like, those are of some of the highest value stuff. I had a lady come up to me in a conference this year and said, oh, I went to this AI or ML thing last year at the conference. I met these people. I ended up getting a job. Now I got my dream job and I'm doing machine learning. All because I came to this thing. Great. Could you go tell another 1,000 people? Because that's super important. But we don't say thank you enough. We don't give solutions enough. We're not giving hugs enough. Like, all that stuff that makes us human just doesn't happen enough, right? And we need to kind of push that down. And we just need to get rid of this other garbage. And when it is negative, we need to create teaching opportunities. So it was 2 days ago, I think, 3 days ago, a lady on the internet was saying, we really should stop using the word guys. Let's have a day of no use guys. Totally agree. But the problem was she offered no solutions as to what to use. Lost the teaching opportunity. So for somebody who maybe didn't know, like, oh, I never really thought about the fact that we've just been saying this word for eons, maybe I shouldn't. What should I say? Should I say y'all or folks or people or peeps, or like, what do you fill it with? So the teaching opportunity just got lost. Be an advocate. Right? Help. Some of the biggest help that we get is just people answering questions on our behalf. I got a lot of eyes and ears out there of folks who just kind of watch and will let me know, hey, there's some weird stuff happening over here. You may want to get involved. Or did you see this tweet? Hey, or here's this blog post. Because I can't see it all, nor should I. It's a community effort. Right? So I want everybody to actively be involved. But I don't necessarily need you to go take the sword. I'll go take the sword. It's my job as the Vanguard. Also, don't assume malice by somebody. Sometimes just things happen, right? It's not intentional. I think we need to shake people's hands. It's something that we really do at that conference. My wife and I try to stand up at the beginning, in the opening, the meet and greet on Sunday night, and we try to shake everybody's hands, thank them for coming to the conference. I can't always be up there an entire amount of time, but somebody is up there shaking everybody's hands. Because it's important that our first interaction with us is a hello and a thank you. No different than I want you to sign the board and assert that you're part of the community. I get a lot of like, okay, that's great and all. I don't really know how to start a conversation. Clark, you've told me to go sit at a different table. You've told me to do all these things, but I'm paralyzed and I don't really know what to do. All right? So when you're in an environment like this, ask some really super easy questions. Hey, what speaker are you here to see? What sessions are you most excited about? Where do you live? Right? They're just little conversation starters. Enough to break down the wall. But don't sit with your peers. Go sit with somebody else. And you'll see your peers another time. Right? And say thank you to whomever. You know how many speakers have said thank you to me over the past 7 years? Anyone care to guess? Less than on 2 hands. How many cards I've gotten? 2. I'm not asking for it, but I think it's super odd. But the people who did give me a card wasn't anything big. It was just thank you for the opportunity, whatever. Total 5-cent card at Jewel. Totally cool. But guess what? Never forgot. Never forgot. A thank you goes a really, really long way. We've had over 1,000 speakers at that conference. I've spent almost 6 months of my time in the past 7 years mentoring speakers in some shape or capacity. It's a lot of my time. Not that it's somehow better than anybody else, no. But the thank yous stick out, right? So just do. I used to tell people, look, all of you are here already. There's 70 some odd thousand software professionals, IT professionals in the tri-state region. So Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, I don't even know if that includes Minnesota anymore. 70 some thousand. We get 1,100 at that conference. Like, that should seem like a giant failure, right? You think, hey, 20,000, that seems reasonable, right? Like, it's a quarter. There's 100 of you here today, or 110 or 20, somewhere around there, right? There's a whole lot of people who didn't show up. So I used to tell people, like, you're already the 1%ers because you left. You left your families, you left whatever you were doing on a Saturday to listen to me speak and a whole bunch of other people. Great. Now don't just wander around aimlessly. Go do stuff. Like, make that investment that you've already made exponentially more powerful. All right. So I kind of skipped ahead. So you're here, obviously. So I think it's important to kind of close with this. I'm giving you permission to do this stuff. I don't want you to go seek it. I want you to be involved in the capacity that you want to be involved. I want you to be able to ask for help. I want you to share. I just flat give you permission. Permission to do more than just show up. Is that fair? But also the reality of that is, I also give you responsibility. And the responsibility is to set the example for the community, right? To value everybody's opinions, regardless of race, gender, location, whatever. Because we all have something to offer, right? Be active in making this a better community, right? Just take some responsibility. I never would have thought we would have made it to our 7th year, ever. When we got done with the first year and we just had squeaked out, it was like, great, sign the next round of contracts. So we signed a 2-year. It's like, oh my God, what are we doing? We're going to sign a 2-year contract. Whew. Never would have thought we would have made it to year 5. And now we're at 7, and now we're getting ready to sign to 10 years. I'm about to sign millions of dollars worth of contracts and an investment in everybody that's here, everybody that's in the upper Midwest, and the hopes that we just do something a little bit better than the people on the coasts. And there was a picture earlier of the speaker, and I was going to do this, but there were a whole bunch of people wearing shirts, our shirts. And he couldn't be more proud than when somebody wears our own cotton. And I know that sounds odd. The very, very first year, I was at that point I had been speaking, I don't know, professionally, if you will, for many, many years. And I was like, we're never giving anybody shirts. I can't stand it. I got more of these tech shirts in my closet. I never want to see like a homeless guy wearing our shirts. Like I don't want to see people washing their rims with it. Like, I'm not buying shirts. Like, just not doing it. Like, I was so adamant about saying that. And then one of my guys was like, yeah, but what if this is the only conference they've ever been to? Don't you want them to have something? I was like, ah, damn it. Like, you're the exception. You're the weird case that has spoken all over the place and has all these shirts. But what about the person who doesn't have any, and this is the only time they got to do it? It's like, oh, yeah, okay, you're right. So the first year we bought a shirt, and it was super cheap because we didn't have any money. Still don't have any money. But so we got the shirt, and God forbid if anybody was to wear that, I would give them a brand new shirt. But then you think about today, and then we see the people in the Facebook feeds, and we see the kids wearing it. And we hear the stories of, hey, I was hiking in Colorado and somebody else was wearing the tree shirt. Thought it was super awesome to meet somebody who happenstance on the other side of the country. But I do want you to remember that just what you see and what gets done are two different things. And this is true for everybody. My wife and I work 365 days out of the year on that conference. My crew works every week on it, and volunteers work sporadically throughout. There are certainly war wounds. There's a lot invested. There's a lot of time invested. But that holds true for everybody who's doing everything. In your career, at your home, whatever. So remember that, right? We're all human at the end of the day. In closing, I just want to thank all of you for being here. I love extending gratitude. I do it at the end of our podcast. I do it at a conference. Thank you for taking time away from your families, your Saturday, your side hustle, whatever it is, to be here. Thank you to the speakers who have put all their time and money and whatnot involved into making something to share. Thank you to the organizers for giving us this opportunity and the sponsors for coming. Thank you for showing up, because it's important to who you are, and I hope that in going forward, you'll start to take the next step and just be a bit more mindful of the opportunities that you do have. So with that, I managed to finish a little bit early because I really want to have a bit of Q&A. And so with all that being said, are there any questions? Because a little 100-person, like, this is super intimate.
I found out about that conference, but like the week right before. So is there some way to get on a mailing list or something?
Yeah, it's on our front page. We're working on a new website. Yeah, you just go to thatconference.com, and there's on the side, there's a mailing list. And we'll do much better with our marketing. Other questions?
I love that first t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a new one. Maybe I'll do a throwback print.
I'm interested in your comment about the negativity. Are you thinking about that mainly online, and because it's easier for people that aren't face-to-face to share negativity? Or?
Well, that's certainly where it's the most obvious, but it's also in the workplace. I mean,
building on that comment, the concepts, cynics, and
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's right. And it's somehow perpetuated in our industry. Oh, React's not good enough. Really? I mean, like, it's good enough for Facebook. Like, why isn't it good enough for you? I mean, like, the obvious, like, rebuttal of that is, how does this multi-gazillion-dollar company seem to work, but you can't work it for your 100-person customer base? And maybe it's not right, but, like, why so cynical about it? So I think we become a bit numb to some of the cynicism. We're just used to, like, that's how it is, but it's also bullshit. And we just need to stop doing it. Because the productivity that happens in the creative exchange of what we do is gone, right? That just knocks it down. Or it teaches somebody else that they need to be a cynic to go do it. I heard a good thing the other day, because most of our industry is very mental, and we're also not the most in shape industry either, that when you do super high mental tasks, you also need to do super high physical tasks. And there's like a correlation between needing to release this side of your body to this side of your body to become more efficient and more productive. I ain't a doctor, just heard it on the line. But I think it's something we have to pay attention to.
To piggyback off the negativity, your ballerina slide.
Yep.
So that I would agree that it's not just online. I think I get the luxury, I guess, of getting to speak with leadership in my job and then also be down at the team level. And every day I experience those Dilbert comic strips with the people on the front line. And the reason we laugh at Dilbert is because there's truth in all of that, right? But just recently I saw somebody online or a speaker, they actually got pretty emotional about it, and because the fact that we do laugh at Dilbert year after year, and we're not doing anything about it. Like, right. We are an actively disengaged knowledge workforce, and it's not just online. Like, it's people's lives day in and day out. So, yep. So I think your ballerina slide was impactful for me because it was visual, and I think I can relate that to what leadership sees. Yep. The foot underneath, all's well. What a great performance. And then the bruised and battered, bloody foot underneath is the frontline employees. So.
And I'll be honest with you, I know we do a blind vote and we do all that, but I hand go through everyone. This year we had 1,000 submissions. There were 480 some odd people that made up those 1,000 submissions. I went through every single one of those people, and if you are an ass online, you are out. Period, point blank. I don't care who you are. I don't care how big of a platform you have. If I go onto Twitter or Facebook and I see any result of negativity, now political stuff, that's a different side, but I don't get involved in that. If I see any of that in there, you're gone. You are not in. No bones about it, don't care. I've never actually said that publicly, so it feels good to get that off my chest.
And I think the other important part that you brought up, and to keep going on the topic, is that the solutions. You know, it's one thing to give your feedback, and it's one thing to give somebody criticism, but unless you're able to provide somebody with a solution, it'll never get solved.
Yeah.
We're never going to move forward if you continue to just talk about it and then not provide us with a meaningful.
And I understand at times, like for us, like our responsibility, you know, you can send me I never want somebody to not give us feedback. Like, I don't want you to not give feedback because you don't have a solution, right? I still want you to give the feedback. I'm old enough, mature enough to realize that I also need to step back and try to read into your passion or whatever was there and try to pull it out. But I still get, you know, the little scrapes and bruises on my feet when I think about it. And sometimes, you know, there's a better way to word something. If you're upset and you need to give feedback, step back, like wait a day. You don't have to like instantly respond to somebody online. That's another thing I've learned. You give me a shitty response in an email, okay, well, we're just gonna pull that off to the side, and I'm gonna have a few cocktails. I'm gonna think about it, discuss it at the next time we have dinner, and we'll go from there.
We're constantly debugging our code. How do we separate that detailed perspective, risk analysis from our social life so we don't nitpick and we don't constantly say, oh, there's a little improvement, there's a little improvement, there's a stupid little mistake, etc.
It was the first part of that. How do we do that?
Suggestions for making that tradition.
I mean,
about what you're saying, that our industry, the biggest thing is.
I think the biggest thing is just exhibiting some patience and realizing that everybody's human. I know every project that I've ever shipped, you get into that kind of 2-month window of trying to get a product out the door and decisions get made, but context doesn't get documented. Like, yep, we're gonna cut that corner. Why? We have 3 hours to get it done, right? And then in 6 months, somebody's gonna come back and go, who did this bonehead thing? You'd be like, well, I did at 2 o'clock in the morning because we had to ship the next day and there wasn't time, and then the train kept going, and that's just reality. But it worked, so put it on a backlog to fix it the next time. But that context never gets documented. And then obviously people get, oh, your comments aren't good enough. And I don't know, I just think we have to step back and realize everybody's human. What's the goal? Let's understand as a team what we're trying to deliver. Or write in the code, hey, like 2 a.m., been drinking Red Bull. Warning. Yeah, like, warning, not sure. And which also brings up the whole ethical piece, and I mean, that's an issue as well. Other questions?
Do you ever think about sending like this type of presentation out to your potential speakers? Do you do something like that? Because I was watching it and it's been like, crap. It's like I get a speaker in a bit and I'm like, I didn't do that, so anyone is coming to mind.
It's great. It's great feedback and a solution. I haven't. This is the first time that I've been able to put all of my thoughts kind of in a coherent, hopefully you thought it was coherent, story. And part of doing it today was also to make it a platform that it could be shared easily and to figure out how we could better do that. So it is in my intent going forward. But I don't know how, but it won't be in this form per se, because I don't know that it's as impactful. Like I need to be able to drip into your time because you're busy, right? So I need to figure out how to make that better and more consumable for you. I mean, you're here, so you're much better than the rest of them. Other questions?
Yeah. I've got a how did you do it question. So you mentioned you get submissions every once in a while that are just outside the scope of what you see that conference being about. So how did you decide which parts of the community you wanted that conference to be about? And how has your view of that changed between first conference and now?
Yes and no. Originally, we used to be more centered on like we were web, mobile, cloud, and tried to guide like a technical thing. And to now we're a tech conference for developers. Like, it's super abstract. We are a polyglot conference, so that means anything goes. And you'll start to see us actually highlight more of the soft skills side of things, because I think of the conference in four fashions. Structured conversation, that's this. Unstructured conversation, that's our open spaces. We're going to introduce something new this year, which I'm not going to talk about. And then soft skills, which fall into those three formats, but from a tech perspective, like, it's about what you do and who you are. Right? Those are the kind of two topic areas. We have had people in other industries submit content that has been relevant to the audience, and we've accepted them. But it's kind of, when there's some oddball stuff out there, it's like, dude, cool you found us. He didn't find us, but wrong. So we are certainly centered. I mean, we just get a little bit better about saying who we are and letting other people say who we are, because our marketing budget is tiny. But being a polyglot thing is not a recipe for instant success by any stretch, because everybody wants, I want to go to the React thing, or I want to go to the JavaScript thing, or I want to go to AI conference, because they're only thinking in terms of educational value. But we're way over here on like, I want a better community, a better person, education's a piece of it. And this is a good little tip too, and I know we're running over, but like, you're going to walk into a room today, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other people in that room. Instantly, you already have something in common with all those people, because you showed up for the same topic. So you can simply look over at the next person and say, oh, are you doing something with React? Nope, I was just here to see it because I don't know what it is. Cool, now you have a conversation, right? You walk over to the next room, it's about Angular, right? Instantly, you have something in common with them. I'd also say, if you don't like the content, get up and leave and go to another room. Did you have a question?
Yeah, you had mentioned several times in your talk about gender, and then how there's a lot of negativity and toxicity that's kind of causing less participation from women. What have you done in your company to sort of practice what you preach?
So we work with a few women who, and I work with almost daily, to try to understand what we can do better. And how we can attract more women. And it's just not women, but it's also people of color. We have way too many white dudes who come to the conference. It's just fact. We are trying to mentor potential speakers. We try to get in all of the different women groups that we can. We try to do something that will work for them if they're willing to. If they know what would work for them, try to create a creative partnership with them. We had 85 women this year submit, and I think 52 women, we had closer to 152 women ended up speaking. But we also started that journey 4 years ago. So the thing that I've learned in the past, and maybe you women will correct me, is unlike guys who will just go based on the premise of this looks interesting, women will only go if they hear it from their peer groups or feel like it's a safe place to go. And so rather than us being like, we've tried to work with as many groups as possible and as many speakers and people understand what our thing is and are we a safe place. So most of the women who come have heard about it through other women. And that just takes an enormous amount of time. So I don't have like a perfect answer to it. And at the end of the day, the reality is I got $550,000 that I got to raise, fund, and do. So, and my time on that calendar, like I only have so much I can do. We've done targeted advertising towards women. I couldn't tell you that made a damn bit of difference. But I spent thousands trying. Same with minority groups. We're a white group. Black folks aren't coming. We're trying to fix that. Like I don't have a good answer. We're also demographically challenged based on where we're at. It's in the Dells, so we get people from Milwaukee and Chicago, not so much Madison, and the Twin Cities who go, well, you're not in this area, so I'm not gonna participate. Like for me, Milwaukee and the Dells is like that's close. We're there for other reasons. We're there because when you leave, you're not gonna go back home. But I have sponsors and groups and all that who won't even pay us any bit of attention because we're simply not in that 2 mile square of Milwaukee, which I don't understand at all, but such is life. Having said all that, I'm open to anything from anybody of how we can be more diverse, be more anything.
Yeah, I think, well, first I want to thank you for the initiative for that. And I think as part of the community, I think it's like it's all going to come from us. And I would highly encourage each and everyone to be a mentor, to like reach out to your local high school or things like that, and encourage girls to
that's a whole nother problem.
Get involved in the community that we're part of.
Yeah, the school thing is hard. That is something that now, 2 minutes. That's something that from the school perspective, since we do have a family thing, we're working, especially this year, trying to work really hard with the schools. We've been really hypersensitive to the family side, and we haven't been able to spend as much time kind of garnering that. This year we did a partnership with the Baraboo High School and their CS folks to understand, like, what does it mean for a high school student? What does it mean, like, potential college student to kind of get integrated with us? And then how do you kind of scale that? Because code.org is great, but when we try to partner with those folks, they're like, yeah, whatever, small fish. So we're gonna try to do it a little bit differently and create affiliate programs with each of the schools and see how that works. Because for us, like, I need you and your community to do it with yours, but I wanna be able to support you and give you something to do it with them, and then you can help bring them back to us, right? So I see our role as just a little bit differently in that whole thing, but I can't articulate it such that I can enable you or help enable you. So I'd be interested in you and I to continue that conversation. All right, I've talked enough. That guy wants to kick me off. Thank you.